All right, let's go. Hey guys, my name is Spence Iverson. This is my partner,
Mark Sterling.
Hey guys, we have been having a ball with our Success Illustrated podcast. These first few episodes have just been fantastic and fun. Thank you all, first of all, for subscribing, for liking the podcast. We're going to continue to give you great content. We drop every single week. And this week, and the other thing too, is that we really want to make our shows, our episodes interactive. You know, so we want to hear your comments. We want to see your comments, want to read your comments. And so if you've got something to say, if you have an experience, for example, if you had one of those bad customer service experiences that we talked about on the last episode, look, drop them in the comments and write about them, and we'll talk about them on another show. If you're part of our Worthy of Millions group or our Patreon group, we'll talk about those last episodes. So guys, make sure that you comment because we want the episodes to be engaging, right, Mark?
Absolutely. Well, Spencer, it's exciting to be back here with everyone, and we're going to have an incredible, episode this time. But, one thing we always got to start out right here, guys. Make sure you below, just click on subscribe. Make sure you do that. If you want to share, that's up to you. Great. We appreciate that as well. But make sure, you get notified when the next episode comes out so that you can actually be plugged in as well.
That's it. Okay. Now, we really want to bring content that we feel, particularly for the entrepreneurship community, is valuable, is resourceful. And so we've got so many things, and we got so many guests we're going to bring on, but we're still kind of laying the foundation, right? Mark, we have a lot of people who have gotten involved in entrepreneurship. They've started their own businesses, or they've thought about starting their own businesses. Yes. And we see this particularly in the home business space where people start making some good money.
Right.
They get a big bonus. And then all of a sudden they make the declaration, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to fire my boss. And yeah, let's talk about that today. We're going to talk about when is a great time to quit your job? Is it time to quit your job? Because some people, unfortunately, have jumped out there and quit their jobs or quote unquote fired their boss and it wasn't the right time. It just wasn't the right time, right? So let's look through that because I think that there are lots of people out there, particularly with some of the statistics that we're going to share today in light of the pandemic and what's happening in the world. More people than ever are choosing not to go back to their 9-to-5.
Yes.
What are those individuals doing? Are they prepared to not go back? How many of you, I'll just kind of raise your hand or comment below, how many of you have been to a restaurant or have been to a store recently and they're saying they're hiring, right? They'll hire you on the spot. How many of you have gone to stores or restaurants, retail outlets right now, and service is a little bit slower than it used to be, right? It's taking a little bit longer for somebody to attend to your needs. Why? Because people right now have chosen in large part not to go back to work. It's not that jobs aren't available. People just aren't going back. And so why is that? Are they prepared for it? And how can you make a better decision as to whether or not it's time to quit your job and maybe do something from home? Now, let's look at some statistics. I found some great information, Mark, from Inc. magazine that said over a third of the individual who quit their jobs right now are planning to start a business. This is 2021 data. Almost 1/3 of everybody who's quitting their job, the reason they're quitting is they want to go start their own business. Now, of that third, 62% said that their motivation was to be their own boss.
Right.
They want to be their own boss. And then the other two motivations are, I want to be my own boss, but I also want to focus on my health and I want to make more money. And we're going to deal with all of those. Making more money is great. Focusing on your health is great. But in the context of entrepreneurship as we know it, these are some very telling statistics, right?
Absolutely, Spencer. And, I think it's important to understand that it's okay to be your own boss, but there's a lot of responsibility with that, especially if you have others to care for. Now, if you're an individual, or first let me say this, there's no perfect answer.
That's right.
There's no perfect answer, right? Every answer is based on your own, circumstances. Now, I've heard people say, you got to jump out there and you got to burn all of the boats because you can't get a ride back. That's, right. You know what? You can't have a plan B. If you have a plan B, that means your plan A is not strong enough. I don't think that there's an absolute answer. I've seen people who have actually burned the boats before, and then they wind up drowning because the fire on the island pushed them back into the ocean, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I've seen those kind of events. I've seen events where people make, let's say they had a great run, they had some additional income coming. Matter of fact, I think there are different types of income.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have recurring income, you can have salaried income, you have what I call event-driven income.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different types of incomes, right? So someone may have something what I call an event-driven income. Maybe they went out, they did a speaking engagement, right? Maybe they went out and they had a home-based business and it's going well for a short window of time.
Mm-hmm.
So as opposed to using that money to fund something else or making it a bridge to another season, they say, you know what, I'd rather do this. I want to jump into something else. My encouragement is that you take your full-time job and let it fund your fortune.
That's good.
Take your full-time job and let it fund your fortune or your part-time aspirations, right? But go out and seek counsel. Go out and find someone else who's walked the path. And do you really know several things? Do you know where the potholes on the highway are, right?
Mentorship.
Have you anticipated the mentorship, right? Counseling. You know, it's nothing wrong to seek counsel, right? That's humility. The other one, which I think is absolutely critical, is that when you go out there into this new endeavor, are you prepared financially? Do you have enough reserves to make it through until maybe there's a period before you have another major transaction, right? Is your significant other on board? Don't just think we're always sleeping with the enemy, right? Sometimes you know, our other halves can actually be great counsel. They can be a good sounding board. And sometimes, especially as men, I know my personal experience is if we don't talk to our significant others, we may think that if we tell them, they're going to try to stifle our dreams. And the reality is that we may be challenging their security. And oftentimes, you know, women especially, I know the women I've been, you know, that I've dated, and
take your time.
It's amazing when I'm married. I had to clean that up, right? It's amazing when I'm married to, you know, they want security. So sometimes you have to look at this from not just your lenses, but the lenses of those that are around you.
Yeah, and many of the things that Mark just mentioned, that you just mentioned, we're going to do a deep dive on.
Yes.
We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to look at many of those points in high definition. But we want to give you today are some pointers on some things that you and I have seen in our 50 plus years of combined business experience that will hopefully help the audience today understand it's time for me to quit my job and jump out there into entrepreneurship and tackle this thing and do my thing, right? Here's the first one. And if you're taking notes, we always encourage you to have your Worthy of Millions or your Success Illustrated notebook where we're trying to drop these nuggets. We're dropping these nuggets, and you want to make sure that you can kind of go back and revisit them from time to time. Here's the first one. You must have a plan. Right? A lot of people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. I'll repeat that. Most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. What's your game plan? What is it? What's your business, Mark? What is it that have you outlined your roadmap for success? Or is this just a whimsical idea or notion that you have regarding your business or your idea, right? You know, everything that we have launched, and we've got some huge stuff coming down the road. This is just one part. This is just one brick of many bricks of the empire that we're continuing to build. But every step of the way, we're planning.
Right.
We plan this podcast. You know how many hundreds of hours of podcasts you and I watched? You know how much research we looked into? Do you know how much mentorship and counseling we got from people who are doing this at the highest of levels before we even did this? So you and I practice what we preach.
Absolutely.
Right? We implement the things and the strategies that we actually plan and give to other people. So make a plan. Right? This cannot be an emotional decision. So let's talk a little bit about having that plan, Mark.
You know, plans are critical. Let's use a different word for plan, blueprint.
Good bit. Blueprint's good.
I personally think everything in life is created 3 times.
Okay.
First, it's created in your mind. It's a thought, an idea. That idea goes from the conscious or subconscious and is written down at some point. It becomes a blueprint. It becomes a guide or roadmap. You got to have a roadmap. And then someone, if it's going to be you normally, right, takes that blueprint and they go out and build it, right? So you go from idea to blueprint to manifestation, to the building of it, right? And if we don't have the blueprint, it's kind of like going and getting IKEA furniture, right? And you come home and I know I'm guilty of this, right? And I just go ahead, you know, I don't need the blueprint, I don't need the drawings. I'm just going to go ahead and put this, you know, 600,000 piece, you know, chest together. Just because I'm going to look at it. I saw the picture one time.
Right.
So just because you have an idea, a picture of what you're going to do, doesn't mean that the blueprint isn't required, because you can miss so many steps along the way. Now, what I'm not saying is that you need to know everything before you get started. Because you can get started and you can make a decision and make it more right later.
Right.
But again, you must at least have a plan. Plan can come in many forms. It can be written down. It can be It can be like we did with this podcast. It can be researched. It can be studied. We can go out there and talk to other people who have actually participated in it. But you must at least have a strong idea of the process. The plan helps you with the process.
Right.
It helps you with the building. It helps you with the dependencies, if you will, of exactly what's required to go to the next step.
Now, another thing, too, I think we should be careful about, and I think I love what you just said about the planning process, how individualized it is, because what's good for me may not be good for you. Let me tell you what's not good for me. The days of the 55-page business plan, and that doesn't work for me.
Right.
It just doesn't. I need about 2 to 3 pages. You know, we've done things, man. We've scribbled some stuff on a restaurant napkin. Hey, man. Sounds like a plan, and we're executing, right?
Right.
You know, so do what works for you, but have a plan. And if the 80-page business plan for you, where you take, look, if that works for you, fine. I'm just letting you know that does not work for me.
Sure.
Because literally the months that it would take to put that together, I could be in profit mode with my product, because a part of it is the fact that we have so much experience.
Sure.
A lot of it is that we kind of know what to do, and we can sketch it out. Make a few phone calls, get some mentorship, there are people who are already who they've already done what we're trying to do. Shout out David Shantz, right? And
shout out to David Shantz.
And so, and it can help accelerate your game plan, right? And that works for us, right? We need to buy this. What? Okay, cool. Next thing you know, we're putting stuff into Amazon.com stuff, and sometimes you got to build the plane as you fly it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to build the plane. If you feel good enough about who you are and what you're doing, the skill sets you bring to the table, and that the timing and the market is right, man, sometimes you just got to jump out there and figure it out as you go, because I believe that in business, there are certain timing windows. There are certain timing windows that you have to jump through. The opportunity of a lifetime only lasts for the lifetime of the opportunity.
Absolutely.
I'm going to repeat that. The opportunity of a lifetime only lasts for the lifetime of the opportunity. And some people, it's almost like that movie, White Man Can't Jump. And if you remember, Woody Harrelson's character was Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, right? Shout out Wesley Snipes. And so, and they're running this con on these guys, and and Woody Harrelson's character was always on the sideline stretching and going through calisthenics and all this. Man, at some point, you got to get in the game. And there are a lot of people, Mark, metaphorically speaking, who are still on the sideline stretching. When it's time for you to get in the freaking game, get in the game. And so, guys, point number 1. Before you make the decision to jump out there, leave the security of your job, and do your own thing, have a plan. Make a plan and have a plan. Second thing, this is big, Mark. This is big. We talked about this in pre-production. Please ask yourself, is this a trend or is this a fad?
Shout out to trends.
Is this money that you have coming in, this newfound wealth that you have coming in, right? This surge of money, is it a trend or is it a fad? What do I mean? Trends last long term. Mm-hmm. Fads are here today, gone tomorrow. You see, Mark, again, in the context of home-based businesses, we've seen people who've had good months, who've had good quarters, or they've gotten one big bonus.
Right.
And next thing you know, they're making this declaration on a company call. Yes, I just want to thank my team for helping me to reach the level of diamond. And what y'all know, I just fired my boss. One of the worst decisions you could have ever made.
Right.
Firing your boss. No, you just quit your job. And that could be a problem. Because you got a $10,000 bonus or a $20,000 bonus one time. Guys, that's great. That's fantastic. But is that something that's going to be happening over and over again? And if not, you just made an emotional decision. So you have to be honest and ask yourself, is this a trend or is this, Mark, a fad?
You hit that right on the head. The emotional part, business and emotions shouldn't always go together. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be passionate about your business. But you should make business decisions. I'm gonna give you a story. I remember I was sitting in Miami, Florida. We were at a hotel, St. Regis at Bal Harbor. Right?
That's a good one.
And we were in this conference room, and this one lady got up and she was talking about her success. Now, mind you, of the 100 people in the room, I was making the least amount of money. Right? Okay. I mean, I was excited just to be at that particular conference. Right. Now, she got up and talked about how she was averaging $150,000 a month at that time. Right? Blew me away. I was like, wow. Then she started saying, as we run our other businesses and this income. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not running another business or businesses if I got this other money in here. But what she knew that I didn't. Mm-hmm. See, I was emotional about being at a certain level, that level she talked about. Mm-hmm. But she was business about having multiple streams of income. And she realized that the income that we were involved in, the opportunity at that time, it had a shelf life.
That's good.
So you talked about this income, where the next one comes from. It's one thing to figure out where the next one comes from, but how long will I have the current one that's extra, right? So maybe the income you have in, it's a stackable moment, right? Maybe the income you have in can be used to flip into investments. Maybe the income you have come in can be used to pay off debt, whatever it is. It doesn't mean it's a business opportunity moment at that time. It could be, but again, you have to ask the business question, not the emotional question.
You know, that leads to another great point, Mark. And that is really, when you're making this decision, you really have to take a hard look at yourself. You have to know yourself, know your strengths and weaknesses, and do an analysis and assessment on yourself, right? You know, are you risk averse? Sure. Are you the kind of person who you feel is ready for, you know, to handle, you know, and can juggle multiple things? This is one of the things that the practice of law taught me, is how to manage multiple things at one time. Because at any given time, you know, I could have 10 to 15 open cases, 15 to 20 open cases with different dates and different deposition dates, and I have to manage all of them at one time. So are you the kind of person that can handle multiple? Are you ready really for this next phase of your, because everybody's not cut out for it, right? Ask yourself, you know, when you look at a job versus the reality of entrepreneurship, a job provides security. Whether you work a lot of bit or a little bit, you know, every 2 weeks or whatever the frequency of your pay is, what your check's going to look like.
Yes.
You know what it's going to look like.
Right.
Not so as an entrepreneur. Are you ready? Are you the kind of person who can handle that type of uncertainty? Personally, for me, Mark, I'm driven by that. I'm driven by that kind of stress. Right. I love the fact that if I don't get up and get it in the morning, somebody going to come get, they're going to start come and get stuff.
Right.
Cars, houses, clothes, they're going to come start getting stuff. Right. I work really well under that kind of pressure. Some people buckle under that kind of pressure. Right. And that's really the life of an entrepreneur. Right. And that is why the person in your example understood they need to have multiple things going on. They also, and that was a great word. I hope you all are writing this down about the shelf life. Right. That's a great, write that down. Shelf life. Is every opportunity has one. Some are, it's like, you know, items at a store. Some items at a store spoil faster than others, right?
Sure.
What's the spoilage date on this opportunity? A job can provide you really great stability for a long time, but some of these other projects, they have a certain shelf life. It's up to you to make a good decision as to what it is and how to apply it to the move of quitting that job and jumping full time, right?
Absolutely, and just an example on shelf life. Okay. Recently, I bought a jacket from a well-known brand out here, right? Okay. But I forgot the receipt. I couldn't find the receipt. Jacket was never worn. I bought it too big, right? Okay. Well, I bought it at a size that I didn't want to be at. Right? So anyway, so the jacket was too big. I wound up taking it back, and they have an incredible exchange policy. Okay. So I took the jacket back, but they gave me the value of the jacket at that moment because I didn't have the receipt. My point is, do we understand, or do you recognize that at some point the value of your service that you're talking about, the business that you're potentially looking at going full time, will the value be the same, the future value of that business be the same in the future, right?
That's right.
So is it, again, this goes back to trends and fads. There's some things that are trends. You know what? Refrigerators and freezers and stoves, electronics, those are trends.
Right.
People would say everyone in the United States, around the world, most people have something like that. But again, you go to Home Depot or any other major outlet, they're going to have a whole bunch of them. Right? Why is that? Because people always need them. That's a trend, right? But, you know, there may be, you know, the widget, right? The fidget.
Right.
You're not spinning around. But my daughter had those. And guess what? They were amazing for like 2 years.
Can't find one now.
Yeah, you know, the convenience store doesn't have them anymore.
That's right.
Right? So the point is something that you're working on right now, is it something that is available at a future date? So if it's not, that's a real question. And I'm not saying don't maximize that moment, don't take advantage of that, but that may not be a full-time business. That may be an event-driven or a moment that's monetized. Guys,
good stuff. I hope you guys are taking notes. Let's go to another point. And we've hit on it a little bit, right? Let's do a deep dive on the emotional aspects. And I love what you said earlier, Mark, about there's a difference between being emotional and being passionate, right? In business, you really don't want to be emotional. You can be passionate, but your emotions can oftentimes lead you astray. And so being an entrepreneur is like riding a roller coaster. I mean, you have some amazing highs, you have some devastating lows, and so it behooves a good entrepreneur to be on an even keel, right? Here is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that in terms of the mindset that you have to be a successful entrepreneur and not be emotional, is understanding when you're on that high to prepare for the low.
Yes.
When you're on the high, prepare for the low. Let me give you a real example. I had a legal recruiting business and was killing the game.
Legal.
Oh yes, I had a legal. I recruited employees in the legal space.
There we go.
Right. Thank you for cleaning it up. I recruited paralegals, secretaries, and attorneys. Right, and for every secretary that I placed, I was making $12,000 flat fee with this one firm out of DC. For every paralegal I placed, I was making $15,000 flat fee, and for every attorney, it was a flat fee plus their book of business. It was placing an attorney could be somewhere north of $40,000 commission. Anyway, I would place. I was young. I was 20-ish, 20 something, and I would place one secretary, Mark, and call it a month. Woo! I did it. It's a wrap. 12 grand. Boom. Zap it to my account. The moment they hired her, like within 48 hours, bam, they wired the money in my account. And, there are a lot of lessons in that I won't go into. But I was having great months, Mark, just doing that. And then 9/11 hit. The firm that I represented was literally one block from the Pentagon. I had a secretary that day who was going to go and interview. They had been trying to get this secretary for the past 3 months.
Wow.
It was a done deal. 12,000. I was counting on it. Y'all know how it is. Sometimes you got money coming in and you spend it before that money was already gone. I knew it was coming. It was a wrap. They really wanted her, right? And she wanted that firm. They called me and said, Mr. Iverson, we don't know what's happened. We think there's a bomb threat around the corner. They're evacuating the building right now. We're going to have to reschedule so-and-so's appointment, her interview. I said, okay, no worries. So, mind you, Mark, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, watching the events of 9/11 live on TV. I'm watching them.
Wow.
Right? But nobody knew that, concurrent with what was happening in New York, something was happening in D.C., right? So they were being told to evacuate. It's a bomb threat. Long story short, we know what happened. There was another plane heading towards the Pentagon. I never heard from that firm again. I never heard from that firm. I'd been working for them exclusively for like 6 months. I'd probably made north of about $80,000 in 06, and just in terms of placements, right? Here's my point. I was on a roller coaster, Mark. Mm-hmm. I went from 12 to 20,000 a month to zero overnight.
Sure.
Instantly. And so as an entrepreneur, the question is, are you ready for that kind of roller coaster? Because little did I know that $20,000 that I had made the previous week, that was the last $20,000 I was going to get for the next 4 to 5 months.
Sure.
That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell, Mark. You have amazing highs, you have amazing lows. And so now when you look back at your year, you may have made $120,000, $130,000, $170,000, but it wasn't like it is on a job. It wasn't like where you got $10,000 a month routinely every month. So preparing yourself, for that roller coaster, for that journey you're going to be on, and having that right mindset is critically important.
Absolutely. So if you're listening again to this podcast, which you are, right? Think about what can you live on and baseline that, right? I was of the mindset that I could live on. I just used my number was about $3,600 a month at one point, right? And I knew that if I made that amount right there, the other money outside of taxes and things where the money should go had to be put aside for those months that it didn't happen.
That's right.
So again, if there was a big month, I used that $20,000 number. If there was a good month, like say 20 grand. Back then, I remember very clearly, right? Well, when it first started happening, I had my Fresh Prince moments, right? I think you don't know what those.
Right.
Will Smith made a whole lot of money when he rapped, right? And then he lost it all. Well, he spent it all, and he said if he ever got money again, that would never happen. So that's I went through that personally. I remember, if I had a great month, say a $20,000 month, in my mind, I'm making $250,000 a year. Well, there were some months where I might have made $1,500, or didn't make anything, or I made $6,000, right? But I was living each month as if I was still earning $20,000.
Right.
So you can't live your lifestyle based on your high moments. You got to live your lifestyle on your baseline. So always save your baseline, and then make sure that you talked about earlier, that 6 months reserved.
Right.
Right. my uncle George, you could hear about him in another episode, right? You know, my rich uncle, right? My rich uncle told me that he had 12 months liquid. And when that hit me, I said, wow, I need to have 1 year of liquid reserve or accessible income in case anything happens.
Right. So in your case, about $20,000 or $24,000 based on your budget at the time of about $3,500 a month.
That was me. I needed $3,600 a month. Okay. I remember $3,624 was my magic number. That covered the mortgage. By the way, I hate that word, guys. Mortgage. M-O-R-T. It means death.
Death, right.
From morto mortari in Latin, right? Then G-A-G comes from the French word engage, meaning pledge. If you have a mortgage,
pledging till death.
That's the 30 years. You'll probably die before you pay it off. That's where they get it from. But, you know, if you could have that amount of money stretched out. So for me, it was mortgage. It was car note at the time. It was utilities, and it was family maintenance. And some of you may know that as shout out to child support. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Well, and guys, so again, we're preparing. We're hopefully you're getting some nuggets on for some of you who are out there, and you're on the fence. Right, we gave you the statistic earlier, the data from Inc. magazine about how, you know, Fortune has an article out too about how, you know, a majority of people now who are deciding not to go back to work are the reason why is they want to start a business. Make sure you're making the right decision, and we're going to come to not just for yourself, and we'll come to it, but for the people who are depending on your income as well. Now, here's another point: budget.
Yes.
Budget, guys. Listen, if you've never budgeted before, now's the time to start. If you've never budgeted before, now is the time to start, because you have to know what it's running a business, Mark. And we talk about it almost on a daily basis.
Yes.
We're working on a budget for another project right now, right? You know, you have to budget. You have to live within the confines of the expenditures that are really in existence for your life. And the moment you go out of those, then that means you either have to make some adjustments to the income or adjustments to the other expenditures, but adjustments have to be made.
Yes.
So knowing where the money is going is critically important. If you're going to make that leap of faith and start your own business and live off of your own efforts, you must know where your money is going. You must have allocated appropriate savings, an emergency budget. Like you mentioned earlier, we recommend at least 6 months.
Yes.
6 months to a year of liquidity. Well, Mr. Iverson, that's a lot. Well, yeah, but there's a big risk.
Absolutely.
There's a big risk in running your own business. You know, you and I are into analytics. We're into data, right? 91% of all businesses fail within their first 2 years. Most of them because of undercapitalization and lack of liquidity and revenue and all that kind of stuff. We get that. Even the things that we do, they're not impervious to the statistics. We know we have a lot of work to do, because we could be in that 91%. We are confident enough to think that we're going to be in the 8 or 9% of successful. But guys, we're not. That's not an arrogance. That's just some experience that comes along with that. But the point is, 91% of businesses don't make it. Yeah. So knowing that, man, I try to make sure that, man, I'm on point with my money. There are times, Mark, when I've made a ton of money. I've made major bonuses, and I was scared to death to spend it because I know entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's very true. Here's what I learned at a very recent age.
Recent age, okay.
Right, a lot of people say young age, right? I'll say in the past 10, 15 years. Okay. All of my dollars, before they hit my account, they have an assignment.
Okay.
So when my dollars have an assignment, they know where they have to go so that I can't redirect them in the wrong place. So, for example, your budget, your $3,600, whatever your number is, right? Well, make sure that when those dollars hit, they have an assignment. So I had categories. I learned this in a business I was in before. And I would take 10% and I would put it aside for, I would pay myself first.
That's right.
Right? I would have a percentage I would do for my benevolent aspects of my life. You know, whether it was tithing, whatever someone wants to do. Charity, right? There was a percentage I allocated that went to Caesar, the tax man, right? There was a percentage that I put aside for savings, and a percentage I put aside to reinvest in my business, right? So I had these different buckets. I had different allocations for them. I learned that back in the Dave Ramsey days. I learned that it was reiterated to me by a very successful mentor of mine, right? And so even to this day, I subscribe to that. So understanding that if you can give your dollars marching orders before they hit your account, they normally will go to the right place without disappearing.
Right.
And again, I give everyone an example. I think everyone can relate to this, right? First of the year comes around, you have a traditional job, right? And your tax refund comes. Guess what? You're like, oh man, I got this $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever that number is. And guess what happens? that money goes away. All of a sudden, a bill comes up. All of a sudden, something happens. Why? Because you didn't give your dollars an assignment. The universe gave them an assignment, right? You talk about Murphy's Law. No, Murphy's Committee got together and said, we're going to come out here and we're going to make sure that we can assign your dollar that you didn't plan for. We have somewhere for them to go.
Right.
Since you want to put them here with no purpose, we have a purpose for them.
Yeah.
So make sure that as an entrepreneur, that if you're going to start a business, that your dollars, your budget, they all have somewhere to go, because if not, the allocation is going to have, if you don't have any order, someone else will order them.
Well, let's go back to something critical. I don't want the audience to miss. I don't want you to miss what another point you just made about, you said reinvest, have a portion of money that you reinvest back into your business.
Yes.
Mark, Lord have mercy, Jesus, listen, I don't know where the notion came from, or maybe it's because, in America, it's, we live in the land of instant gratification. We live in a very materialistic society. You can't, listen, guys, you can't trust everything that's on social media. You can't trust every Instagram post or Facebook. Man, listen, people put the best of the best on Instagram. They put the best of the best on LinkedIn and Facebook. They don't show you the journey. They don't show you the struggles, right? And so while you might see somebody in Dubai having a great time and in their Lamborghini and popping bottles and all kinds, well, what you don't see is that person also took 50% of their last big hit and reinvested it back in their business to make something like that a reality. You're seeing the end results. You're not seeing the journey that took to get to the end of the movie, right? Mark, how many people have gotten bonuses or get involved in businesses, and again, I'm going to go back to the home-based business concept context where individuals will get into a home-based project for $199, $299, $499, whatever the entry price is, and think that they're done. Right. Have the audacity to feel a kind of way when you might suggest that, hey, listen, you need some personal development tools, or maybe you need to buy this book, or maybe you need to take this trip, or maybe you need to go to this conference. Well, I just spent listen, that was, okay, let me give you this example. And it's an example we use in our trainings. When you open, because we like to compare home-based businesses to traditional businesses.
Correct.
There's no difference, guys. The same ideologies, the same concepts apply, whether it's a home-based business or whether it's a traditional business. So if I'm starting a McDonald's franchise, if I'm buying a McDonald's franchise, I understand that I need to get the building. And once I've gotten the building, my job isn't done. I'm not like, oh, Mark, high five. Woo, we did it, dude. Man, we got that building, dog. It's a wrap. No, I have to go and buy some hamburger buns. I got to get some hamburger meat. I got to get some milkshake mix. Well, they running low on milkshake mix. Let's see, get some French fries, salads, whatever else they've got, right? I'm just starting. And guess what? Once that first month passes and those customers come and get that, I got to re-up. I'm constantly reinvesting. See, we can understand that with a McDonald's, but when a home-based business comes, all you want to do is put in $99, $199, $499, and you want to be Mark Sterling. You want to make millions of dollars from home, but what you don't see is Mark takes a portion of every single month's check and he reinvests in his business. Sure. He takes trips. He buys hotels to rent out hotel meetings for. He's doing stuff for his different leaders. He's taking flights. He's making a reinvestment. And it's that reinvestment in his business that's generating the additional dollars, guys. That's Warren Buffett talks about that all the time, about how many people, they have the lottery mindset. They want to invest $1 and make $1 million. Guys, that's not even a biblical principle. That's not even a biblical principle, right? You reap proportionally to what you sow, right? So you cannot expect to put in the minimum, but expect the maximum, right, Mark?
Sure, absolutely. It goes back to, like you said, at what point you have to feed what feeds you, right? So if you understand this, I use this principle as well. The seed that leaves your hand will never leave your life. It enters into your future. And seed, let's say seed is money. Seed is your reinvestment, right? So let's just say, you've been able to eat, but now you have to take some of that seed and put it back into the ground, into your business, reinvest it. At some point, and by the way, the seed that you plant never looks like the seed that you planted.
That's right.
Because the seed actually dies. Your money will die. That means that you can't take that back. Okay. But when you plant it in good soil, right, in the right environment, you're planting into your business, it will begin to yield, right? But it will yield more than you planted. Somebody has to get that. Right. But if you never plant it and you consume it, spend it, it's gone. It's gone. So if you're looking to start your own business, you must have a reinvestment strategy.
Right.
Not just, oh, I'm gonna take this. No, it must be intentional. It must be part of the plan that I'm going to reinvest so that it can grow. And when it grows, they always say the harvest never looks like the seed. And that's true. So when you you continue to plant over and over and over again, and at some point others will show up and they'll start helping you to actually take out what you planted. And guess what happens after that? Your business will go from adding, only you working and creating income, only you working and creating results, only you working and creating creating activity, to others doing it. You'll go from addition to multiplication, but you have to be in a season of reinvestment.
Man, let's look at two. And this is for the audience. And I want, guys, I want this to be interactive. Well, put into some of the comments as to why, what you've seen other people, reasons why other people have quit their jobs, right? But let us know why because we can kind of talk about them on future episodes as well. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to quit your job out of anger.
Yes.
Correct. No. And the man holding me. Okay, look, what man? And why is he just holding you back? Right? Why are you, or you quit your job because you didn't like Big Shirley sitting next to you in the cubicle? I mean, why are you quitting? So you're quitting out of anger? No, don't quit out of anger, right? Don't quit because you think you're better than the boss. We see that a lot too.
A whole lot,
and you may very well be smarter than the boss, but right now he the boss or she's the boss, right? And until some of these other things have come into play, where you've got the requisite amount of reserves, or your monthly income or your money on your side hustle is equaling or matching your money on your job, things like that. Until that's in place, listen, get that money. Like Mark said, let your job fund your future, right? But those are just a couple of things that I've seen, Mark, people leaving out of anger, or they're leaving because you think you're better, or more qualified than those all may be true, but it goes back to the emotions. That can't be an emotional decision. That cannot be an emotional decision, because now we're going to talk about the people who are depending on you.
Oh, yeah.
You must consider the individuals who are thinking, who are depending on you. For those of you who are married, Mark is married. I'm single, but I still have people who depend on me.
Shout out to all the ladies looking for a man.
This is my relationship coach right here, y'all. Look, I still have a lot of people who depend on me, right? I have a mom and a dad. I have Brandon and Haley. I have people who depend on me. And if I go down, it's a lot of stuff that goes down that just ceases to operate, right? So every decision that you make, Mark, can't just be in isolation, right? It has to be considered. You got to look at the big picture. And so I had a CD that I recorded where I talked about contracts and negotiations.
Right.
Where when you're making a decision and you're married and you have a family, it's time to go into contract and negotiations, right? Where you sit down and you let your spouse know about your dreams and your goals and what you want to do with your life. And you can even have the kids there after a certain point, and you let them know, right? Because what we're going to practice now is something called the law of buy-in. You want your spouse and the kids to buy into your dream and your vision in this context of quitting your job, right? Let them know. Let them hear your game plan. Listen, I really get, and I think you broached the subject a little bit earlier, Ben. I get upset when men, they go to the extreme with the man as the head of the house mentality.
Sure.
You might be the head of the house, but you're not the smartest cat in the house. There are a lot of people, Mark, that we've met on our entrepreneurship journey, whose households would be so much further ahead if you let your wife do what she was gifted to do.
Sure.
But you take that whole head of the house thing so extremely that your family's household suffers because, yeah, you the head of the house, but you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I think I said something. You the head of the house, but you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. It's okay. Right? We talk about this all the time. It's not about who gets the credit. If we all winning, I know for a fact there are guys on Tampa Bay's football team with Tom Brady last season who did not get on the field. They didn't even get on the field, but they got a Super Bowl ring?
They sure did.
That ring has no story on it. It has no, you don't hit a button and it plays who had the most playing time, what the stats. No, it's just a ring. You want your family who's sitting there, depending on you making the right call for your team, you want all of them to get a ring. But no, because of this machoism or whatever it is, man, you have a spouse who is amazing at certain gifts and amazing at certain things that could benefit the team, but you keep her on the bench. That's a whole nother training we'll do, Mark. But the point is this: you share your goals and your dreams. You get the buy-in. Hey, look, if dad is able to do this, then mom, what do you want? Oh, wow. You want me to upgrade your ring? Bet. I'm going to write that down. That's in our contract. But baby, what kind of ring you want? Oh, for real. I love that princess cut. Fantastic. VVS1? Oh, girl, stop. VVS1. Right? Write all that stuff down. Right? She's excited now. Kids, what do you want? What do you want? Okay. Brandon, okay. Trip to Disney World. Disney World. Haley, oh, wow. You want to go to the water park. Fantastic. Now, okay, we are going to sign this. You got a contract. Now, here's what's going to happen. Now, as opposed to the family being at odds with your decision, what you've just practiced is something called the law of buy-in, where now they're your cheerleaders. Hey, Dad, how's the new business coming? Hey, Dad, did we sign somebody up today? Hey, Dad, are you closer to that bonus? Because you already know now, based on this contract that you've got with your family, when you hit this goal, we're going to Disney World, we're going to the water park, and Mama, we're going to Shane's. Is that no? Not Shane. What's the name of the diamond company?
That's Shane's.
Is it Shane?
Shane and Company.
Yeah, Shane and Company. We're going to Shane and Company. Shout out Shane and Company. If you want to give us a diamond sponsorship, we'll accept it gladly. But anyway, Shane Company. That's it. Want to go to Shane Company? Pick out your ring, baby. You know, Jacob the jeweler. Yep. Shout out Jacob jeweler. Right, and pick out your ring, baby. But my point is, they got the buy-in now. They got the buy-in, and now you got cheerleaders, and now everybody's moving in one accord. Let me tell you something. As a guy. There is nothing better, Mark, than knowing that your girl is your biggest cheerleader.
That's it, 100%.
Listen, when your girl got them pom-poms and just, man, you will move heaven and earth to make that thing right.
Now I know there are a few individuals watching us, listen to us right now.
Okay.
And they can't wait to go home and say, man, baby, this was going to happen. And she going to look like, again. And there's not going to be agreement.
That's right. That's good.
But it doesn't mean you don't practice that exercise.
That's right.
Now, let me be devil's advocate. Let me at least give a different perspective. There are times when you got to move. There are some times you got to make a decision. Now, you must consider, especially with a family, you have to make
hold on
those
real quick. Hate to cut you off, but when you say when you got to move, do you mean move unilaterally? You mean move without the? Okay.
There are some times when you have to make a decision.
Okay.
And I've heard you say this before, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Martin Luther King had a dream.
Yeah.
Not him and Coretta.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah. So imagine if a significant player like Mr. King, Dr. King, had a dream. Mm-hmm. But Coretta didn't have that dream. She thought that dream was a nightmare. Oh, this could happen to our kids.
Right.
This could happen to our household. Something could happen to you. And she didn't support it. Does that mean he doesn't do it? So at some point, you have to pursue your dream, right? Because especially if you know it's a significant calling.
Right.
If it's something that you've been given the vision to do, something that, because oftentimes if you're given a vision, there'll be provision, right? Mm-hmm. So that could be an interesting dynamic when there's something that you've been challenged to do. I've been in that situation where I knew that a traditional job wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Right? And when I would go to work, I would see a sea of cubes. I didn't have a degree, but I was still working in a field with folks that were degreed multiple times. And I had solid six-figure incomes. And it wasn't always just about the money, but it was about the future. And I didn't see myself in that story.
Right.
So the question is now, are we equally yoked? And if you're not equally yoked, how do you move forward? So in my story is I got to a point where I made a declaration. It was a law of buy-in, but it was with a party that wasn't in agreement at that time.
Okay.
I said, give me this window of time to create some results.
That's good.
To create some results. Understanding that you're not on board. Now, this was a reverse angle, double around law of buy-in, right? So there's not going to always be support. So sometimes you have to go out there and pursue your dreams. But at some point, you have to produce results.
Brilliant. Absolutely, because we've talked about this in previous episodes where, or on the CD series, success equity. Sometimes, man, when you try to have that conversation with your spouse or your significant other, you have not built enough success equity with her. She's seen you jump into all kind of crazy stuff, and that ain't her fault that you done jumped in all kind of crazy stuff, right? Nobody let go out there and tell you to sell chocolate-covered bananas to the masses or whatever it was. You just got emotional about it because your friend invited you to some crazy meeting. baby, no. So sometimes, like Mark said, look, give me space of time to go improve myself. Because if you're honest with yourself, have you given her a reason to trust you in this decision? Because women are nurturers.
Yes.
They're nurturers, right? They want stability, right? They love, that's why I almost said something, man. Let me see. That's
shout out to cleaning it up.
That's why you sometimes see, really, really attractive women with really, really wealthy guys who not so attractive. That stability is really attractive. It is, right? So that stability for a lot of women.
So is he through those Chanel sunglasses.
Right.
Let's edit that part out.
Right. So what happens is, have you given her, and it can work the other way, opposite way. Women, when you want to jump out into this next venture and you tried a whole bunch of stuff, have you really given him, have you built enough success equity with him for him to green light, the next move? Because guys, when you're moving in one accord and you're moving in lockstep, guys, it's absolutely a beautiful thing. Some of the most successful individuals we've seen in the context of home-based businesses, in our case, have been power couples.
Absolutely.
Man, the husband has his lane, wife has her lane. Man, they're rocking it. They are but they've been doing it for a while. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they balance each other out very well, right? So guys, understand contracts and negotiations and practicing the law of buy-in. Now, we have a couple of more before we wrap this part up. Ask yourself this question. This is another point. Do I have thick skin? Do I have thick skin? Mr. Iverson, why would you say, do I have thick skin? Let me explain. Going into entrepreneurship and selling your goods and services, or selling, whatever it is that you're offering to the marketplace as an entrepreneur, you are about to enter the world of no. You are about to enter the world of no.
And he's not talking about K-N-O-W.
No, N-O, where you're going to get significantly more rejection, probably more rejection than you've ever gotten in your life. You've got to be okay with that. Now it's a numbers game. You've got to be okay with getting to know. Understand that no, all of these no's simply mean that you're getting closer to your next yes. If you do something enough, an average will appear, right? Robert Kiyosaki said that you must necessarily fail 6 to 7 times in order to become successful. So if you've tried 4, 5, 6 things, congratulations, you're on your way. As long as you're learning and applying the lessons that you've learned each and every time, fantastic. But Mark, you've got to have thick skin as an entrepreneur. I had a patent have a patent on a toothpick. I almost forgot about this. I have a patent. It's called Promo Pick, and it was the first toothpick that advertised for restaurants and businesses. And I got this when I was a senior, I believe, at Georgia Tech, and I remember printing out some prototypes for Chick-fil-A because I felt I had a presentation coming where I was going to try to sell this. I created a dispenser, everything. When I was at Georgia Tech, we had all these resources. So toy makers, all kinds of stuff, model makers. So they made a dispenser for it and everything. So I walked into my manufacturer one day just as they were coming off the assembly line, and they were playing with them and making fun of them. Oh, I was so hot. I was so hot. I was so upset to see them. Oh, this is goofy. Oh, yeah. They were doing something really stupid. And I made up in my mind, number one, to never use them as a manufacturer, right? I went on, I got my samples, but I was emotional. I was hot, about that. And it almost caused me to not try to move forward with the project because somebody else had a different impression of my baby. Right. And that sometimes, guys, can lead you down the wrong path. You being so passionate about your baby that you can't look objectively at it. See, I expected, because it was my creation, I expected everybody to love it. Oh, man, this is ingenious. That's what I thought. But really, what I probably should have done was ask them, hey, look, why do you find this funny? Or what is it that's making you laugh? Or what is it versus me getting upset and low key taking that business someplace else, right? It probably could have done me some good to do almost like a focus group and find out, hey, look, what don't you like about this?
Right.
And make
some free market research.
Get some free market research, right? So you got to have thick skin, Mark, as an entrepreneur.
So 2 things I want to talk about right there. One, you talked about these percentages, right? Mm-hmm. One thing that served me well personally is I learned to monetize my no's. I give you just 2 examples.
Okay.
One, there was a big company that we were a part of, several years ago. And in that company, every new client that came on board, you made between $50 and $100.
Okay.
So I knew for a fact that if I talked to 10 people, one of them would join.
Okay.
That means if I divided $100 by 10, it's $10 per person. So every time I talked to someone in my mind, when they said no, I equated that no to $10.
Okay.
So, man, I was like, hey, you know what? Do me a favor. Can you watch this presentation, man? I'm telling you, and they said no. I said, look, I'm doing a survey. I need you to watch this presentation because every time somebody watches the presentation, I make $10. They said, that's the craziest thing in the world. I said, well, will you do me a favor, watch it and give me a no? Could you do that for me?
Right.
And it became really fun. Do you know what happened because of that? In my mind, when they said no, in my mind, I'm like, thank you for the $10. I got excited.
Yeah.
But because I started creating more activity, because I believed that if I gathered enough no's, I would get to a yes. I gamified the experience in my mind, that more people saw the presentation, more people wound up joining. Because I got to a point where I was so excited just to collect a no that I wound up creating more income producing activity because I wasn't concerned about the end result. The other side of that, I wind up paralleling the experience, and in my mind, I said, you know what? My belief got stronger because I understood the dynamic of no. When your belief is strong enough, belief becomes anesthesia. And the more belief you have, the more anesthesia you have, the less pain you feel. So the no's really didn't hurt me because I had so much anesthesia, I had so much belief that if I showed 10 people, I know I would get a minimum of at least $100 bill.
See, guys, just changing your thought process, like you did, like you said, gamifying the experience.
Yes.
Right. But even that took you having thick skin.
Yes.
Right. Because you still had to go through those no's. You just found a way to make the no's more tolerable.
That's it.
Right. Make the no's more tolerable. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they get knocked out of the entrepreneurship game altogether because they start getting a series of no's. And you know who they get the most no's from? They get the no's from family.
Friends and family.
Friends and family, man. And they let unqualified friends and family. I love my family. I really do. And so all the Iversons who might be watching this is not directed to you guys. But there are people who will allow their immediate friends and family who aren't doing anything with their lives to determine whether or not you should continue to pursue your dreams and goals when they themselves aren't. See, I don't let unqualified people give me advice about where I want to go with my life. I just don't.
Right.
But we get so emotional because, first of all, who said you should have taken the idea to them anyway? Right? That's biblical. Go back to the story of Joseph. Yeah. He had the gift. He shared his dream with his brothers. They said they hated him even more.
The robe of colors.
Oh, yeah. He had the coat with many colors, right? Yeah. Lesson learned. Man, sometimes you don't necessarily need to take your dreams, goals, and ideas immediately to family, right? Sometimes you just need to internalize them. Sometimes you just need to manifest those and put those affirmations in the universe in the context of your home and your successful environment until it's time for those affirmations to manifest themselves outside of that environment. Sometimes you got to protect the baby. Yeah. You got to protect the baby. You don't just put the baby out there. Hey, y'all, no. Sometimes I got to protect the baby because the moment sometimes, man, Mark, we put the idea out there, man, people out there just trying to sabotage it and shoot it down before it's even given a chance to give birth, right?
Let's talk about Joseph.
Okay, let's go to it.
You brought him up, and Joseph is a great example because Joseph got his opposition from his family, and wound up serving. See, there are times we call it the glory, the weight of glory, or the weight of business ownership. Right? Everybody wants to win high level, but they don't want the weight of the process.
That's right.
So the process for Joseph was 13 years. Right? He was incarcerated, right?
That's right.
And what 13 years is your process, guys, whatever that looks like. That means you're going to be incarcerated. That means there'll be opposition, there'll be challenges. And here's where FAD kicks in. You're going to have the weight of favor. No one can take that from you, right? Favor means that no matter what you go through, you're still going to have a strong blessing. You're still going to be able to eat. You're still going to have great stories. You're going to be healthy. These things are going to work. And no one can take away your fad. No one can take away your favor. No one can take away your anointing. See, There will be people that don't do business with you because they don't like you, but it doesn't mean that you're still not going to win.
Right.
You still got to go through your process, and they can't take away your dream. So you got favor, anointing, and dream. And understand that those things right there. So that's when Joseph went through and he had his process. But what happened is on the other side, even though your family, your friends are going to be challenging to you, once you get past them, what wound up happening is Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt.
Sure did.
And when you get to your success level, here's the key. Here's the key. You don't have the I told you so moments. You got to make sure your character is built up, not just your income. Because on the other side of that, when you hit that success spurt, right? When you start coming around, you can see the finish line. And your family comes back and they start cheering for you. You can't go back and say, don't cheer for me now because you weren't there with the practices. What Joseph wound up doing is he said, hey, I see my family's coming. I'm running the food supply right now. You know what? You guys come over. Hey, let me feed you. Matter of fact, go back and get dad. Y'all come, not only come back, come live in the palace.
Tell a story.
At some point, you must understand that you must use your family for what I call target practice.
Right.
You get warmed up. You hone in your sights. Don't worry about the nose. Don't worry about the misses. That you hone in your sight. You get that laser tight.
Right.
And then it's gonna take care of itself. Last quick story in this, and watch this, guys. The first time I ever got involved in this industry, home-based business, about 17 years ago. Right. I'd already had a traditional business, a couple of them. And I came home and I saw people making incredible amounts of income monthly. And I said, man, if my next door neighbor sees this, he's going to run through the roof. And it was only $200 to get started, right? But he had sold me my house. He was a realtor. And we became friends because my next door neighbor. And he also sold me a rental property with a condo downtown Atlanta, penthouse level. It was overpriced. We lost a ton of money on it, right?
Okay.
Right?
What a friend.
What a friend, right? But, he had made tens of thousands of dollars on commissions from us. There's no way in the world this guy's not going to spend $200 to support me.
Right.
He laughed.
Yeah.
He laughed at me.
Yeah.
And again, this right here wounded my thin skin. And I said, man, this doesn't work. I saw the success. I saw what others were doing. I saw my vision. It was a dream. I was like, I can do this too. And the very first person I talked to told me no. And what I internalized was that this can't be real for me. And I had to flip it. And I finally was able to put into a nice package. A nice package. That just because someone told me no doesn't mean that I can't do it. It just means that I can't do it with them.
Right. Man, and that was honestly, Mark, I had deja vu because one of the most poignant no's I ever got in my 27 years of home-based business came from family. I kind of have a rule. I just don't talk to family about home-based business projects, right? And again, nothing's wrong with my family, and I love my family, and it's just that my family is very secure in the lanes that they're in, right? But in this one particular project, I took a leap of faith, and I talked to a cousin.
Okay.
Because I thought that the product that we were participating in at the time would have been a great fit for his skill set. Huge mistake. When I tell you, he didn't just give me a no. It was like you ever been cussed out?
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, it was, it's you've been, sometimes you get cussed out, right? But then you get like super cussed out. Like, I mean, they were like professional cussers, right? Right. And man, this was like a professional, this wasn't your average no. This was like a professional no. I mean, he made me feel, and this is, Mark, this is when I'd had big success in the game, right? He made me feel this small. And it was at that moment, Mark, that I revisited all of the training that we did. And I said, this is how a new distributor or a new business owner feels. And unfortunately for them, they don't have the success equity that I have to withstand what just happened to me. Because I called my relative in earnest. I really thought that he could benefit from this. Dynamic, professional, is a leader, well-spoken, all the attributes you look for. He gave me a royal no that made me feel like I was an absolute fool for even being in this space.
Wow.
So the way I flipped it was I took revenge. Not revenge from the traditional notion, but one of my definitions of revenge is to go out and have massive success. And that's what I did with that project. I went on to be massively successful. And shoot, I could be a little petty too, I drop my new ride in the family chat, right. Big shout out to my company, thank you for this S550, you know what I'm saying? Or this Porsche or whatever it was, I just want to just to let him know that your no was not going to hold me back from my success.
Sure.
It just wasn't, man. But there are a lot of people, Mark, who just can't withstand that no from family because, man, it hurts because that's family. But now we train on, listen, family might be the last place you need to go, right? So guys, be cognizant, and be aware, of that. And here's the final point. Here's the final point.
Shout out the final point.
For those of you who may be listening and, you tuned in late, we've been talking about when do you know it's time to quit your job? When do you know it's time for you to leave your employment and pursue entrepreneurship full time? Here's the final one. Don't burn the bridge too soon. Don't burn the bridge too soon, or don't burn the bridge at all, right? And what's the bridge? The bridge back to the job. Why? Because even in your best attempt, you might have to go back.
Yes.
Even in your best attempt, you might have to go back. I'll give you a quick story. Like the preachers say, and the lesson will be yours. And so, I was a sports agent, sports attorney. At this time, we had a big time baseball player who played with the Braves and with the Yankees. My partner, and then so a friend of mine that I had gone to law school with joined me on this journey. My first time taking on a partner in that space. And we had other clients, but this was our biggest client by far at that time. We signed him to a deal, got him on to the Yankees. He was due on a rehab assignment, and this was his first time as an entrepreneur. And we were on that roller coaster, man. The Yankees had not given him the big time money, and we got a percentage of that deal, right? And so he was a big time attorney, one of the biggest law firms, in Atlanta. So he left about a $200,000 per year job to pursue his dream to become a full-time entrepreneur. And so we went several months of going and meeting with other athletes. We flew to the West Coast to meet with some pitching coaches, all kinds of stuff on behalf of this athlete and some golfers we had signed. We were having a great time, but we were barely keeping our heads above water because we knew that we had a big payday coming with this particular baseball player that it just hadn't manifested itself. Long story short, I believe he got pressure from his wife, which is fine, but the roller coaster of not having stable income wasn't for him.
Right. And
he was able to go back and pick up right after about 6 months and pick up right where he left off with that big law firm because he hadn't burned the bridge. He didn't cuss him out on the way out. He didn't shoot a video and put on Instagram, have a limousine, and balloons and, today I'm gonna give you my 2-day notice. Today you will notice that will no longer be here. No, he didn't do all of that. Right. He just, he kept in contact with the other partners and associates, and they always left the door open for him, and he walked right. But that was for him. For me, I started another deal and I got involved in another project because I like that kind of pressure, and we survived that. But for him, he'd never burned that bridge. So we encourage you as you're thinking about maybe leaving. Again, don't leave in anger. Don't be emotional about it. Have the reserves that are necessary, but keep the lines of communication open.
Sure.
Because you may very well have to go back and revisit getting that job again, right, Mark?
Absolutely. I worked for a large company. I think I can say that name. It's okay. Ernst & Young. I worked for Ernst & Young for a period of time. Yep. Shout out to EY. Mm-hmm. And I remember doing orientation. They had a program called the Boomerang Program. Okay. And it literally talked about at some point, and they really understood culture, right? They said at some point, we encourage you to go out and explore other things. But you may want to come back, and we had that door open for you.
Wow.
And that's what really drove it home for me, that it's okay not to burn bridges. They understood it from a corporate perspective. They understood that you could work for a company, right? Maybe you want to pursue your own deal. Maybe you want to, you've had certain experiences here and you built some skill sets or relationships, and you want to go out there and start your own, whatever it is, right? Maybe you want to work for another company, and maybe you have an opportunity to, rank up or get a higher position or maybe something that's more suitable to your skill set or challenge you in another area, but you can come back. Mm-hmm. And if people understand that the bridge that you burn may mean that you can't go back. Sometimes we say we're going to burn the bridge so that, guess what? We're stuck here. We got to fight forward. Well, what if they want to come back to you? See, if you burn a bridge, they can't come back to you either. Mm-hmm. And that may be something. What if they came back and said, you know what? we appreciate the time you were here. It was an amazing, a season we had with you. We've seen what you've been doing, but something new has opened up, even better, and it may be something for you at that point. So again, don't burn the bridge, because burning a bridge, oftentimes we think, well, we can't go, but what about if they wanted to come?
Another point to that, like you said, a bridge goes traffic on a bridge goes two ways, right? Whatever service or project you start, your former employer may actually become a client.
That's it.
They may become a client.
Exactly. Right.
Let's say you open up a restaurant, and it just so happens that, they're doing, lunch breaks and bringing in VIP clients. And all of a sudden now, your former employer who knows you, who knew your work ethic, who maybe even cheered for you to go out there and start your own deal, may have even been an investor, all of a sudden now says, hey, we want to patronize you. But no, you left in anger. You left, you were emotional.
Right.
You did a big YouTube video, a big Instagram post about how you fired your, all that stuff, right? And now, not only can you not go back, but they cannot come to you. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because again, I've seen it happen. We've seen it happen where I've had people that I've worked with in the past, early on, and later on, they became clients of mine. So always remember that bridge goes two ways.
And the other way, looking from the other side, I remember being a reason why certain companies had a percentage of their major success. Okay. And leaving that company, and I've heard the owners, by way of multiple different sources, so kind of validates it, that they had some bad things to say because I left. Right. For whatever reason, the season when I was there was a significant benefit. So to bash someone or something after they leave, as opposed to loving on them and appreciating the season you had with them, here's the thing. Later on, we've had some interesting successes.
Right.
I can forgive them, but I won't do business with them.
Well, yeah, that's right.
So be careful, because if you burn a bridge, someone may say, you know what, that bridge is burnt. They burnt the bridge. I can't get to them. Or guess what? They burned the bridge, and I'm not even going to go a different route to use their service. Right. So that's important to really understand that as far as maintain the bridge, because you never know if you or someone else get a chance to come right back across.
Guys, listen, as always, we try to provide amazing content for entrepreneurs, on our website, Real Talk, Real Entrepreneurs, Real Results. We want to bring you value each and every episode. This is why it's called Success Illustrated. We hope that you're enjoying the content. We want you to guys, go down, please like the content. Please subscribe. If you want to share it, that's fine as well. Also, give us your comments, because we want to find out more interesting things and topics that you are interested in. And we promise you to give you our best each and every episode. We have some amazing guests lined up, but we wanted you, our audience, to get a chance to know more about Mark and Spencer, about our journey, our stories, our successes, our failures, and then we're going to be integrating more fantastic guests each and every step along the way. As I like to say, guys, we can't wait to see each of you as the embodiment of Success Illustrated. We feel that ultimately everyone will become worthy of millions. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Make sure, again, you click subscribe down the bottom and share with some of your friends and family if you receive value out of this podcast. But the thing that I love saying is, don't dream small dreams, because small dreams don't have magic. Take care.
See ya.